the top story this morning. The Ministry of Defence has been hacked and all fingers pointing this morning towards China.
Yeah, now the MOD has confirmed to GB News that an external payroll system was hit, and it's operated by a contractor which contained staff information, including names, bank details and, in some cases, home addresses.
They've told us it was immediately taken offline for a full review. All payroll payments were made at the end of last month and they don't expect any future payment delays either.
Let's talk to former Labour MP Denis MacShane, who joins us now. I mean, this is hugely worrying, Denis, because it makes you wonder what on earth the Chinese are trying to achieve with this.
Oh, it's very simple. They're not interested in the pay grades, the money paid in the MOD. What they want are bank details, bank numbers, other connections. So then if they find any vulnerability, somebody's got a problem with marriage or whatever, then they beam in on that. And we saw it, it's happening all over Europe. The German far-right party, the Alternative for Deutschland, their politics isn't so important, but their chief European candidates almost had to stand down because he had a guy on his staff who's been exposed as a Chinese spy. Alicia Kearns, our very good chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the House of Commons, she was being investigated or examined for being tapped by the Chinese earlier this year. And the wackiest story, if you like, in France, where actually President Xi Jinping of China is now on a big state visit with President Macron, but the port of Brest, which is the home to the French nuclear submarine fleet and other warships right out on the Atlantic coast, they suddenly found, rather lonely place, they suddenly found the last few years an awful lot of very young Chinese ladies were enrolling for academic courses in the university and going out and maybe building warm relationships with all the nuclear technicians and this, that and the other. And a French admiral was reporting to the French National Assembly on this. It is happening all over. And even, they're being aggressive. An Australian helicopter, military helicopter, was attacked by a Chinese plane. The Prime Minister of Australia, Mr Albanese, has just announced it was on a UN patrol related to keeping North Korea under watch. And we're not doing anything to push back. This is the terrifying thing.
Well, how do we push back?
We've had two people charged with espionage under the National Secrets Act, including the person that was involved with Alicia Kearns. But there is, as you say, Stephen, how do you push back? Because there's this dilemma. You have the financial pain that would come with cutting off such an important trade partner, giving these tiny sanctions sort of slap on the wrist. We're not even calling them a threat, are we, at the moment?
Well, President Macron is rolling out the red carpet. I was with him, I don't want to name drop, I was with him last week in the Elysee, but since you asked, we talked about the change of government in Britain. But I was glad to see there the ambassador of Taiwan and the representative of Tibetans worldwide. The Dalai Lama is very frail now, so this chap sort of does the touring business. But France's luxury industry, export industry, would collapse overnight if the Chinese weren't buying Louis Vuitton. Look at our own Foreign Secretary, who's refusing to recuse himself on dealing with China, even though he was taking an awful lot of money to promote Chinese investments overseas and other work on behalf of China. They're taking us to the cleaners, and we don't have a policy, and it's got to be across the board.
But do we need a policy in that sense? This is all smoke and mirrors. You're not telling me we haven't got significant assets within China ourselves, as will America, as will many European countries.
I remember when I was the Minister for China, going to the Chinese Foreign Ministry, and I had this huge briefing thing about that big from the Foreign Office. And I went for a pee, and when I came back, it had disappeared. Panic all round. And then we went for another pee, as it were, had a cup of coffee, and it reappeared again. So obviously they just photocopied it in a flash. And that's just the way they behave. Well, we have to call them out, we have to make clear, and it has to be done internationally. It won't be in a little England or La Petite France or Große Deutschland that does this. It will be all of us saying this must stop.